Homecoming, or The Reed-Choked House. Adapted from Ueda Akinari's Ugetsu Monogatari. Text and illustrations Søren Bjelle. Carr was a man, and his wife was a beautiful and loving me. They were poor, as Carr liked parties, and he did not care to work on his land. Their money vanished, and the family despised him. What should he do? Then he met the silk merchant, who was on his way to the capital with new-dyed silk. New-dyed silk! Carr sold the last remnants of land and bought silk for his money. He would come along with the silk merchant. He wanted to be a merchant too. I'm a merchant. Me was worried and tried to dissuade her husband from leaving, but in vain. Last night, before the departure, they took an affectionate farewell, and me said, "Don't ever forget me, and come home as soon as you can." "I'll be back when the wind scatters the withered leaves," Carr assured her. Then war came. Gangs of robbers looted and destroyed villages, and people fled. Me also thought of escape, but she stayed home, waiting for her husband. After all, he had promised her to return in the autumn. Autumn came, but Carr did not show up. Not a word did she hear from him, as no postman carried letters in the war-torn country. In great disappointment, me watched the evening bird. If only it could carry her grief to him. She locked herself up in her cottage and did not want to see anyone. When Carr came to the capital, there was a great demand for silk, and he made good money. Autumn was approaching. He heard about the war in the country and the looting and massacres, but he defied these reports and took to the road, since he had promised his wife to come home. In a mountain pass he was attacked by 7 robbers, who took his money, his luggage, and his clothes. Only life he was allowed to keep, and he thought, when I get home, perhaps me is killed, and my cottage plundered and destroyed. What is there to come back to? Sheer hell. So he turned around and went back to the capital. Here he fell ill with a fever. Oh, I feel so bad. An old man took care of him, got him medical attention and medicine. When the year had passed, Carr had recovered. He had made many new friends, and he lived well with the old man. As in a dream, the next 7 years passed. In the capital, a terrible disease was ravaging. Dead bodies were lying in the streets, and war was getting close to the city. There was talk about the end of the world. Now Kaa thought about his home, and me from whom he had heard nothing during all these years. He blamed himself for having let her down. Now he had to go home. If she was dead, he would build her a tomb. On a spring day, when the sun was shining, he said goodbye to his friends, and after 10 days of travel, he reached his home village. The sun sank into black rain clouds, and it was dark when Kaa entered the village. He recognized it, but he saw ruined farmhouses, collapsed bridges, silence. Shattered by lightning, the pine tree stood in the stellar glow. The cottage was unharmed, and light leaked through a crack in the door. Someone was there. Could it be me? The voice was hers, but when she opened the door, Kaa could hardly recognize her. She was aged by sorrow and pain. Seeing her husband, she started weeping and told him. Most people fled from the village when the war came. Those who stayed behind were like animals towards a single woman, men with evil intentions. Autumn came, and winter and spring. I waited. You did not come. I would travel to the capital to find you, but the war blocked it. She wept again. I'm glad to see you, she said, and comforting Kaa put his arms around her. The night is short, he said. Morning will soon come. Then they lay down together and slept. At dawn, Kaa woke up, strangely drowsy. He froze and would pull the blanket over himself, but there was no blanket. He looked up. The roof was gone. The doors were missing. He got up and staggered around. What had once been their garden was now overgrown with weeds, and through the walls long arms of plants were growing. Where was me? The cottage was a ruin. He got into what had been their bedroom. The floor planks were torn up, and a mound of earth was piled up. A plank wrapped with paper stood on the top. Kaa recognized Mi's handwriting on the paper. She wrote, "Imagine having survived to this day, abandoned by my beloved. I've been waiting in vain for him." Now Kaa knew that his wife was dead, and he broke down in sorrow. Kaa went to the nearest house to ask how Mi died. He met a man he had never seen before. The man knew nothing of Mi. "Maybe your wife died before I came here," he said, adding, "There's an old man who lives in a small house by the sea not far from here. They say he has lived here for a very long time. He is often coming to your cottage to pray. He can probably help you." Kaa found the old man. He sat by the stove outside his house with a cup of tea and exclaimed, "Why didn't you come before, Kaa? This place has been possessed by devils. A young and beautiful woman as me alone." in this hell. It is the worst I have experienced in my long life. Autumn passed, and winter, and spring. She died on the 10th of August. I made a coffin and buried her. Now you go back, Ka, and pray for the peace of your wife from the bottom of your heart. The old man took his walking stick, and together they went to Mi's tomb to weep and pray all night.